You recently published a diary about the attack on Gaza in July and August 2014. You just said to me that it was a nightmare this time. Can you please describe this nightmare?
No, actually, the 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 attack, as you said, or the assault in Gaza, for most of the people living in Gaza was a long nightmare, and sometimes you had the feeling of endless. It's not gonna end, and most of the time, you count the days, and remember, in the war, you forgot the actual date and actual day. You say the 7th day, the 9th day of the war, the 20 days, Then this is the paradox is that a nightmare you might wake up, but in this nightmare you might be killed and you don't wake up. So I think it was a terrible experience for most of the people living in Gaza. And in this long war, I think the true story of the people was lost, because media was hunting and running after numbers, after accidents, and nobody would care about the stories of the normal citizens, and how they survived the war and how they managed to live their life despite this heavy machine of war and destruction.
And how did you survive? I mean, physically you survived because you were not hit by a rocket or by a shell.
Yeah,
but how did you survive, like mentally or
No, it's you survive because this has mistaken you. It's not you survive because you managed to survive, or because they want to let you survive. You survive because simply, death was hunting in the streets of Gaza most of the time, and you could die in any minute, So it's not, but you survive as well, because life has to continue, and mostly as Palestinians, you live your life is a break between two deaths. Mm-hmm. Most of the Palestinians were born during time war, and they might die in a time war. In a wartime, and they might die in a wartime. So our life is a break, between those two wars. Most of my generation was born in the war, and many of my friends they died in the war. And so when you survive, you survive the break between the wars. And like I remember my child when the war finished, when we went to the beach after the war or the assault, he was asking me, when is the next war? Because he's 11 years old, or at that time he was 10, and he experienced three assaults or wars. So he thought war is a normal course of life. It became like, because there was a war when he was 6 years old, another war when he was 8, another war when he was 10 or 9 and a half, So for him, war is the normal course of life. So he was asking, when is the next one going to happen? So you survive because you have to survive. And I think the miracle is that this nation, the Palestinian, it witnessed a 100-year now conflict since 1917, until now, and they managed to keep themselves as a nation and as a people, So this is a miracle of life. Yeah.
But what are besides the traumatization of children, and that children do not have a childhood without worries and without fears, besides that, what is the long-term impact on the people and on the mentality of the people?
Definitely war affects the life of the people, because to feel that you're always, sought for to be killed, this is dramatize your life, This makes you feel that life is going to end in any minute, And this affects psychologically many people, especially the drone, how it affects the life of the people. When you have the drone whirring and hovering all the day and night, on you, and so it's consistent whirring, then it brings down your mind, And at the same time, psychologically, when your beloved persons are killed and cut in pieces, of course, this makes nightmares and, you know, a sad future, and the belief in the future stops. The minute you stop to believe in the future, your life ends. And many people, you know, because of this continuous war and this continuous image of destruction, killing, you know, torn parts of the bodies, corpses, you know, and rubble and everything, you know, this makes them look dark to the future. And I think this is what war meant to mean. This is what war is meant to bring to their life, you know. And I think, you know, war has not ended so far in Gaza, because the consequences of war didn't end. Still people living in the schools. All people, their houses were not rebuilt, so they still live, you know, like 50 person live in one room, or 5-6 families living in one flat, etc. So I think there is no point of saying that the war ended or the assault ended, because the consequences didn't end. And I think it's gonna bring more conflicts in the future for those people, children who saw their fathers, you know, killed, or a girl who saw her mother killed, etc. You know. Yeah.
To rebuild the more than 100,000 homes who were destroyed, I mean, for the rebuilding you need construction material that Israel does not allow to enter, and you need money, but there was a funding in Egypt. I know that most of the money were not paid so far, but how do you heal the souls of the people who are hurt? Are there experts, or are there
nothing has changed.
Medical health to heal people, or
no, listen, the international community and Israel is making it impossible to restart the reconstruction process. The conditions, you know, as if when your house is destroyed, you're subject to prove that you're good, that you're gonna take the cement and all the construction material to build your house. And many people, you know, they want their house to be built. They don't care how, you know. And I don't think when 100,000 houses are destroyed, it's logic to say I want to have a criteria to get the construction material in. This means that you don't want it to get in. You don't want the construction material to get in, and the people are suffering so far, you know, because just imagine the psychological consequences you were talking about, you know, when a child is not living in his room, and he lives temporarily for 2 years now, a year and a half now, or more, a year and 3 months, you know, or 2 months. He's living in others' houses, so he doesn't have his belongings, and he has to live temporarily until he moves to his flat, which doesn't exist anymore, and which the international community and Israel is telling him there are conditions. If you adhere to, we're gonna let you build your house. So, and the people just they want their houses to be built, and nobody understands why. If the money is there and the intention is there, so why the houses are not reconstructed? And it's not only the houses, the public buildings, you know, streets, you know, parks, mosques, part of the church in Gaza, if you remember, beach, you know, Corniche, you know, everything was destroyed in Gaza. You know, Gaza was made into, as T.S. Eliot, the poet, would say, heaps of broken images, you know. It's just, you know, rubble everywhere, you know. And within the soul of the citizens, lots of other ripples, psychological ripples.
But is there any medical help facility for people who are really suffering psychologically?
No, we have, but most of the people are paying attention now, you know.
For the homes
and
water, electricity, building your home, schools. The UNRWA was nearly postponed the year, like, you know, the education year, and the Palestinians in Gaza have to demonstrate against this until they opened it in time. You know, you have to struggle for every little drop of water to have it, you know, and forget about the pollution and, you know, the siege and the inaccessibility, you know, of the Gaza to the outside world, and not having your actual voice heard, you know, your voice heard, and etc. So it's sometimes, you know, it's very difficult to think of extra things, UNRWA just said that they have a lack of funding, more than 100 million US dollars. So what is your message to the
No, listen, it's not the
countries?
Palestinians' fault, but the UNRWA has lack of funding or not. The United Nations itself made the Palestinian question when they decided to divide Palestine, and they allowed Israel to exist, and they didn't allow us to exist. So they are responsible for our crisis and Nakba. So they have to handle it. It's not me. I'm not gonna give him money to contribute to my Nakba. You know.
Yeah, that's a problem. And Nakba is going on. It
Yeah, of
started
course.
in 47, and it's going
Yeah,
on.
of course.
All the
So it's not-
dispossession.
It's not. You cannot ask the victim how you're gonna help the guy who killed you to help you. You know, it doesn't go like that. It's not my. I don't know why the United Nations have all this fund, and when it comes to the Palestinian refugees, they say, "Oh, we have shortage of fund." This doesn't make sense. Okay, bring me back to Palestine. I come from Jaffa. Bring me back to Jaffa. Okay, give me a state like you gave Israel a state. So what you're doing? So the international community to have all responsibility to what happens to the Palestinian people. It was not our fault what happened in the Second World War.
No, it's not your fault.
It was Europe's fault. And it was not our fault that Europe wants to have an ally in the Middle East, so they have to put Israel in the middle. We were living peacefully with the Jews before that. As we are living as Arabs, Christians and Arab, peacefully. There is not, you never know who's a Christian, who's Muslims when it comes to Palestine, And before that we had Jewish. So they made this crisis. So they have to find a solution.
And you have a right to return to Jaffa.
Of course.
You have this international law and international
And the
rights.
United Nations says we have the right to return.
Yeah, I know. It's a
But
resolution.
it is 70 and it's 68 years now or more. Yes, 6-7 years now, and it's never implemented. While the whole international forces they will move to Iraq to implement the decision about Kuwait, which I am supporting personally, because I'm against occupation, whatever the rule of it. Whoever doing it, Saddam doing it or Israel, it's the same for me. Okay, but then why the United Nations is moving to implement one decision while Israel is not adhering to more than 100 decisions? Yeah, you see.
And let me not finish this interview before asking you about the 9th year of the siege, because this is another problem. Beside the Nakba, there is the siege of Gaza in the 9th year, and I know that people really suffer a lot because of the siege. And you wait for your right to return to Jaffa, but you're not allowed even to visit Jaffa, right? Because you don't have the permission.
Gaza is sieged, Gaza is made into a prison. But the prison can be 1 meter and can be 300 kilometers. It's a prison. You don't have the right and you don't have the ability to leave it. And Israel withdrew outside Gaza. Yeah? Israel withdrew outside Gaza, but it's digitally controlling Gaza through drones and physically through the warships and the tanks in the boat and the warships in the sea. So Gaza it's like, it's made into not only a prison where food and electricity, water, clean air, visits from outside. When you're a prisoner, your family might visit you. But this is made impossible for the Gazans, Everything is denied to them. It's just, and they're putting there in a cage until war comes and hunt them.
If you would have family in Jaffa, they could not visit you.
No, even if you have family in Jordan, Egypt, I have all my uncles in Jordan, they cannot visit. So Gaza, and the sea in Gaza is another fence. The sea is supposed to be a window to the other side, a door which you cross and go to outside. But in Gaza, it's another borderline. It's a nice painting on the wall. And the painting, you can enjoy looking at it, but you cannot cross it.
You probably know that Germany is a very close ally to Israel, and that Germany stands with Israel even if Israel violates international law. And that Israel receives weapons and submarines by Germany. Yes. And do you have a message to the German government?
No, it's not a message. I don't have the right to give them a message, because I'm not German to tell the German government what to do. But I tell them what we expect as Palestinians. As Palestinians, we don't understand why should we be denied our right to have a state. If you're calling for, a right of independence for all the nations, and we don't understand why everybody is silent about Israel. Nobody says go on war against Israel. We don't say this. We don't expect Germany to go to fight Israel, or America to fight Israel, or UK to fight Israel. But at least they have to fight for their ethics and their morals, which says occupation is illegal. And at the same time, supporting an occupation state is mean you support the occupation. So it's not that you say, oh yeah, I'm a friend with Israel. No, you should not give Israel money. Israel is using this fund to kill me, to besiege Gaza. So I think we didn't ask for the moon. We don't ask for the moon. We didn't say we want the moon, the Palestinians. We say it's simply this is our land, and we already accepted. Remember this. To negotiate our father's homeland. And we accepted 20% to have a state in them. Even those 20% are denied for us. Simple.